Hi, this is week number two's essay about cell phone bans. This is a Zoom recording of week two in January 2023's class. If you missed the class, I'm sorry. Hopefully next time we can get you in person. This is a great topic today, and I chose to do an advanced topic, and I modified it for my semi-private students because it really has to do with you. Something's going on in schools today. Well, there's a lot going on post-pandemic. We're still in the recovery process. There are still some students who have learning losses. There was a good 5-6 month period there where many students just kind of paused learning for a while. I think even when teachers were learning how to do Zoom classes and learning how to give online and in person at the same time, which is hard to juggle. I think they were even giving kids a break in 2021, just for social emotional reasons. And because, yes, we were in the midst of a pandemic and there was so much unknown. I do think my Indian kids have fared pretty well in the pandemic because honestly, I think you were above grade level to begin with. You're very hardworking students. So, and most of you have outside supplemental classes like mine. So I think that puts you above grade level anyway. But you have to consider, ladies and gentlemen, that not all kids have the access to the internet that you did during the pandemic. Maybe they didn't have a school issued iPad. So this device right here became a lifeline. What they would do is they would use their parents' cell phone to log into online classes, to log into their teachers, maybe even to take classes. So here's what happened. As a result of the pandemic, we, not just kids, adults too, became really dependent on this device. There was a study out of China that talked about really this weird malaise. And malaise is a fancy word for we felt this sense of fatigue. We were bored with school. We weren't technically bored with school, but it felt that way. And that's actually a sign of stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. So we became dependent on the cell phone, and moms and dads were pretty gracious about how much time you could spend on it. Okay, so 2 years later, we have a cell phone problem. Okay, so I'm going to share a video. Pretty cool, everybody, that we in Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, made the national news. Here we go.
The district's controversial plan to ban some students from using cell phones. Students will be required to lock up their cell phones. That will start enforcing a cell phone-free environment. A recent survey of 1,300 kids found in 2021, 37% of 11-year-olds had a smartphone. By age 14, 91% have a smartphone. But at the Richardson Independent School District, just outside Dallas, school leaders say they're seeing a problem. So many phones on campus, distracted students. So at Forest Meadow Junior High, they're trying something new. It's called the Yonder Pouch. So here's how it works. Each student gets one of these pouches. At the beginning of the school day, they have to put their phone inside and lock the pouch. No access at all until lunchtime or dismissal when a teacher uses one of these to unlock the phone. Voila! Student gets their phone back. Let's focus on learning. Superintendent Tabitha Branham says research shows adults and teens feel the urge to check their cell phones every 4 minutes. Why can't we just trust kids to keep their phones off or in their backpacks and not be distracted by them during class time?
I do believe that our kids can be trusted, and our kids are amazing humans. However, we know even as adults the temptation that the cell phone can have. We're trying to develop those lifelong habits.
Dallas isn't alone. To keep students focused on learning, some schools require them to put their phones in a cubby or special area when they enter the classroom. In New York City, the largest school district in the country, each school sets its own policy. In Los Angeles, students are required to turn their phones off and put them in a backpack or locker during the school day. And it may help with student learning. In a poll of 900 schools, Yonder found that when students don't have access to their phones, 65% of schools saw an improvement in academic performance. 74% showed better student behavior, and 83% saw an uptick in student engagement. Superintendent Branham says it's early, but she's already seeing some positive changes.
I'm hearing stories from students where even at lunch where they could use their cell phones, that they're still keeping them put away and that they're just having conversations, that they are listening to one another.
But some parents are unhappy with the program, citing safety as their biggest concern.
It's beneficial in making the kids, I guess, pay attention more in class. But the thing I don't like about it, like if something horrible happens in school, they won't be able to get to the phone quickly to call us.
I would prefer them to have some access to some type of phone immediately if they needed to in their profession.
While phones can help emergency responders, some experts say phones in class can also alert an intruder to the location of a student, or potentially jam up cell phone towers or broadcast sensitive information on social media. Are you concerned at all that teachers might not be able to get to the students in case of an emergency to allow them to use their phones?
We are not concerned. The first and foremost thing we would want a teacher to do in the time of the crisis is execute our safety plan.
Well, Yonder tells NBC News that these pouches, they can actually be found in more than 1,000 schools right now in cities like San Francisco, Milwaukee, Nashville, and Boston. They're not cheap. The cost is about $20 per student. For Superintendent Branham, her district is 20,000 kids. That's $400,000. We do want to thank our NBC Dallas station, NBC Five, for their help with this story, but there's a lot of layers to it, right? Because there's the safety aspect, there's the convenience of being able to reach your kids, but then there's also the distraction, which, as we saw, as soon as they started taking the phones away, the kids' behavior changed.
That's something.
Yeah, it retrains the brain.
And however you store it, whether you store it in a pouch like that for $20 or just lock it away somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
The concept is the same. Keep it out of the kids' hands. So, Craig, I have your phone.
Sure.
I'll show you how easy it is.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Like, if phones change size, you got to change the size of the pouch. But you just lock it up, and then here, you try to be the teacher. That's the base. You just slam it down. It's kind of like when you go shopping, and they've got to do the magnetic tag. Yeah, I think so.
There we go.
Is it coming out? No, the other side. The other side. There you go. This pops up.
It's Craig proof.
It's Craig proof, that's for sure.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You do that, and then boom.
That's
unlock
expensive
it.
though when school district budgets are tight, and you're talking $400,000.
$400,000. But that's how big of a problem it is.
By the way, Craig, you're never.
Okay,
I know.
And then there we go.
Some houses could use that, by the way.
It's true. It's not a bad concept to take this away, retrain your brain, and change the habits that people have about reaching for their phone every
Yes.
day.
No question, we're all distracted when our phones are around. Even if you're not looking at it, like it's there.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Fascinating, everybody. And the reason we're talking about this today is because this concerns my students, and I think it's coming. I know Coppell is a little bit behind other schools. Charter schools and private schools have already banned cell phones, and they are seeing incredible differences. Okay, so we have two problems from the pandemic, and obviously the first one is academic losses. Okay, so let's acknowledge that one first. Those cause distractions. Cell phones cause distractions. And I don't think I need to tell students what those distractions are, but here's what some of your peers said. Just the sound of a ping, the ring of a phone, if anyone forgot to turn off their phone, even the vibration of the phone people heard. They can hear people talking on the phone, even if they're trying to be quiet. Obviously, they see kids playing games during class on their phone. Okay, so some of the things that I'm talking about, yes, kids can do them on their iPads, which the school has issued. So what's the difference? Well, what is it about this device that is causing this dependency? Okay, well, first of all, kids can access anything on this device, okay, which means it's unfiltered. There are no firewalls, there are no blocks enforced by the school, which means kids can get into trouble. And this is a pretty compelling device here. It pulls us in, it sucks us in. As you heard in the video, people check their phones 4 times. And I gotta make sure I got that fact right. It just went whooshed right out of my head. And I took a picture of it used to be on mine. Students feel the urge to check their cell phones every 4 minutes. And if you don't have your cell phone or it's locked away, it's put in a Yonder pouch, you're still thinking about it. Okay, so a couple more distractions. Kids playing, watching, sharing TikTok videos, even making them in the bathroom, I've heard. Same thing with YouTube videos. And oftentimes when kids do this, they do it with the volume up. They kind of like the attention they get from everybody else. Obviously, a teacher can tell if your head is buried in your phone and your fingers are, we know. Kids have been known to bump into each other in the hallway. Kids have been known to online shop on their phone. This one disturbs me greatly. I know in Coppell at North and West and East, a lot of them have enforced bans of technology in the cafeteria because kids wouldn't eat their lunch, too busy having fun. So that's not good. Obviously, cell phones can be used to bully, spread rumors, misinformation. Obviously, the worst thing you can do on this phone, academic-wise, is cheating. Let's look at the camera. You can take a picture of the test, a picture of homework, share the answers. You can text your friend the answers. You can look up on Google the answers. So cell phones really make cheating quite easy. Obviously, there's cyberbullying, and another very alarming trend in middle school was you'll notice you can't take your phone or your iPad into the locker room. And I don't know who thought of this idea to take pictures of kids undressing for PE or athletics and then take a picture and post it and, shame them, or if they think it's funny, prank them. That's illegal. That's pornography. That's a crime. So they're really not going to allow you to have that in the locker room for those reasons. Yet it's really interesting that kids try those things, isn't it? So maybe this device is so powerful, and think about Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Kids don't think it through. Like, what are they doing with this device? So we have cyberbullying and cheating as our worst offenses with this device. Okay, so I kind of set you up for your first body paragraph already. Schools today have a concern. We have learning losses. We have to catch up. And there's a lot of parental pressure, just pressure from higher up to catch kids up. And I'm all for it too. However, it's really hard to do our jobs when kids have this device. So by banning this device, perhaps we can close the gap on those learning losses. And as you saw in the video, when schools enforced these Yondr pouches, now what I love about the Yondr pouches, it's extreme, I'm not going to lie. Everyone has them locked up. No one has access. So it kind of levels the playing field. But what they found was academic performance rose. Students could pay attention. They also noticed test scores, standardized test scores rose. Here's the second part of your essay today. Here's the other problem with these devices. Okay, they are addictive. What does it mean to be addictive? Let me just put it in the simplest of terms. We can't put it down. It calls to us. And the algorithm, the way it's set up, really hard for a kid's brain that's not matured yet. We have a prefrontal cortex in your brain that is underdeveloped, which means you make, impulsive decisions. And this phone doesn't help with that impulsivity. We don't think things through. So the second problem that has happened during the pandemic, which I think is even more worrisome, this week and next week's essay is actually going to address this, is we have more behavioral and disciplinary problems than ever. Okay, so first of all, I know a lot of that is from the trauma of the pandemic, and we're all struggling, myself included, probably your parents as well. You get into this fight or flight response, and a fight or flight response is your body's emergency system. We run from danger, we fight off danger, which is putting the masks on, getting the vaccines, or we freeze because we don't know what to do. We're just kind of stuck. And that's not a good place to be. And things are still a little bit unknown. We're doing pretty well in the United States, especially with infection rates, and the death rate has dropped considerably. But here's the reality. It is now endemic. What does that mean? Endemic means we're going to live with it. COVID is not gone. It will never be gone. The flu from the 1918 pandemic is still here. It is endemic. So yeah, we kind of have that, in the back of our minds. There are families that are facing financial issues because of our economy. They've raised interest rates. We've got higher costs for groceries, and that kind of elevates the anxiety of a parent. And kids kind of take those feelings on a bit. You don't realize you're doing it. So this is why kids are having issues at school. When I was a mom and my kids acted out, my first thought was, what's wrong? Something's wrong. Because it's not normal for you to act out like this unless something's wrong. So you have to get to the root of the problem. So many kids are having issues that it's overwhelming the system. I don't think this device helps with that. We have studies that show social media apps, TikTok, Instagram, are the worst thing for teens, for young preteens, because what we do on these social media sites is we compare ourselves to someone's post. And let me remind you that social media, I say social media is a lie. It is not truthful. It is not honest. It is fake. It is someone's photoshopped picture. You see a cute TikTok video, they could have practiced that for 20 days, 5 hours a day, and they get this one perfect video shot. And you think, oh, I can't do that. Well, maybe you could if you had as much time invested in it and you did all of the editing. So we don't think about that. All we do is we compare ourselves to perfection, and that makes us feel less. We're not good enough. So this device does not help with that. So let's say we eliminate cell phones. We don't just remove the academic distractions. Whoa, we feel happier. We feel more socially connected. Well, yeah, we're in the cafeteria eating lunch, having a conversation instead of having our heads buried on our phone, or we're sharing Instagram feeds that are not good for us, or we're in our group projects in school and we're having face-to-face conversations. So here's the other thing that they found at this school in Richardson, 20 minutes from here. When they banned the cell phones, the social skills rose. Behavioral issues plummeted. Kids were happier. Oh my gosh. Sounds like a win-win, doesn't it? So a couple definitions on your page, and I'm on page 3. Distractions are defined as anything that prevents someone from giving their full attention to a task. I can tell you, your parents probably sometimes, are buried in their phone when you want their attention. And when they're looking at their phone that you don't have their attention. Too many adults are driving and texting or watching something while they're driving. Can they give their full attention to the road? Of course not. We know since this device's inception, since it came out, car crashes have risen 40%. Okay, we know it causes distractions. So some synonyms, these are fantastic words: interruptions, disturbances, interferences, intrusions. So we know we remove this device, more learning is going to take place. Okay, so interestingly enough, guess who is against banning cell phones? Your parents. As you heard in the video, they're really concerned. I want to know that I can reach my child when there's an emergency. Okay, let me tell you, I have been a public school teacher, and I can tell you there are safety protocols and procedures in place. If there's a fire drill, if there's a lockdown, if there's a tornado drill, if someone loses a loved one, you don't text or call your child and let them know. That is the worst thing you can do. And I have kids in my program who've told me that their parents told them. You call the school, they notify the counselor notifies the teacher. We remove the student from the class, and we remove them and tell them in a very quiet setting, or your parents should wait till you get home. I know kids that have told me, high school kids, their parents text them 10 or 20 times a day. So that's not the kids with the problem. That's the parents with the problem. We want to create independent learners. We don't want our kids dependent on us. So what's school for? Our job as teachers is to educate. We are to educate you academically and socially. If this impedes that, if this interferes with that, it's going to go. So I think in Coppell, I'm a little alarmed because a lot of teachers are okay with it. I'm not okay with it. My job to my students is to teach you. This is out, in my opinion. So mental health, also defined as a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. No one's doing great right now. How can we? We've all faced trauma in the last 2 years in some fashion. Everyone has had some kind of loss. We grieve that loss. We feel sadness, anxiety, frustration, depression, anger. And these are very common emotions kids are feeling right now. So how does this device mess with that? Well, comparison to others on social media, worst thing that we can do for our children. Fear of missing out. I know kids in my program that mom and dad have never bought them a phone. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter. The other kids in the class with a phone really make you feel like you're missing out, or they cause distractions for you. You don't have to have a phone to have this affect you. I've had students tell me their teacher's on their phone, which upsets me greatly. We know that this is addictive. Adults have problems putting it down. Kids with this underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, this is too much for them to say no to. Even if the phone is stowed away, as you saw in the video, kids think about it. Okay, so we're going to go to your outline today. And I want to tell you, they've been pretty good. The essay responses have been pretty good. Please remember, you and your are informal, second person. They are never allowed in a formal essay. So strangely, we had a 2-week break and kids came back from the break and went back to some old habits. So I just want to give you all a heads up. So we're going to start with body 1. We are going to argue why schools should be banning cell phones. Number 1, one main reason educators plan to remove cell phones during the school day is to minimize interruptions with academic learning. So notice that interruptions is a synonym for distractions. And I waited in the body paragraph and all of these examples to use distractions in the end sentence. Okay, so one serious way cell phones can be disruptive. So I circled that when you were in class. I had students circle that. And you can give any example here. How are they disruptive? And it could be simply just the ping of the phone, the vibration sound. The ring of a phone is enough to interrupt the teacher, interrupt students, maybe somebody giggles, everyone's off task. They lost their focus. Notice how I back that up with a clear explanation. Number 2 or 3, a second way cell phones intrude on learning can be just the way someone is using their phone in the classroom. If someone's playing a game on their phone, if someone's, looking at a YouTube video, you may be trying to do your work, but you see them and it does intrude on your academic learning time. A third way students are disturbed by cell phones really is maybe in the lunchroom. If you're trying to eat your lunch and you're so busy, socializing with your friends, sharing a TikTok video, or maybe even making a TikTok video, that you don't even eat your lunch, which we know affects academic learning, right? So not only will banning cell phones minimize learning distractions, and there's that word, distractions, it will keep students from committing even more harmful behaviors, such as cheating and cyberbullying. So you'll notice I put cheating and cyberbullying in the end sentence. So please don't put that in your 3 ideas. Okay, body 2. Another reason educational professionals want to stop cell phone use during the school day is to improve a student's mental health and social skills. Academics is only part of what you learn in schools. If you are communicating only with one person on a phone, you are not developing social skills. And remember, we had online classes for a good year. So we had a lot of people really kind of suffer with social skills. So one problem with students having access to cell phones is they are addictive in nature. Listen, you may have good intentions and say, I don't want to look at my phone. but this is pretty hard for an adult to put down. A young person probably can. Remember, the average person, the average student checks their phones every 4 minutes. Yeah, that can't be good. A second issue related to cell phone use is how accessing social media sites has been linked to increased anxiety and depression. You can't access social media sites on your iPad, only on this device. Okay, and they are popular, these social media sites, and the popular kids are on these sites. And then other kids look at these posts that are perfectly scripted and curated, and they're anxious and frustrated and sad because they don't feel like they compare or they measure up. A third difficulty students have with cell phones is they pay less attention to their peers and face-to-face communication. I think that's a no-brainer argument. If your head is buried in your phone, you are not socializing, period. There is no social skill development whatsoever. So there's no denying smartphones can be detrimental if used in schools, causing students to develop mental health issues and miss out on necessary socialization. And we know this is happening because there are higher discipline issues and behavioral problems than ever before. So we know it's pandemic related. Okay, so here's our thesis today. Schools have found students often misuse technology when it's allowed in the classroom, such as computers or iPads, but when it comes to cell phones, banning them is necessary to cut down on distractions with learning and improve behavioral problems, period. So lead and conclusion. In your lead, you always want to explain, well, why? Why are we even considering, paying $400,000 for Yondr pouches to lock away students' cell phone devices? Because we have two problems since the pandemic. Number one, learning losses. These cause distractions. That's not going to help close the gap with learning losses. Secondly, we have behavioral and disciplinary issues. They have risen since the pandemic. We have very frustrated teachers who, instead of, being able to teach, are disciplining students. That takes time away from learning. Cell phones are accessible, convenient to use, easy to hide, and students own them. So they feel like they can do whatever they want with them. That's why they don't want to give them up. So we're going to have to take them away. So here's the connection here in the conclusion. What's the answer? Well, let's go back to the video. The answer is when they were banned at a school in Dallas, academic performance improved. Standardized test scores improved. It worked. What happened to behavioral and disciplinary problems? What happened to social skills? Everybody had to turn in their phones. So everybody just said, okay, we're just going to talk to each other. Discipline problems fell. Behavioral issues dropped. So all in all, by banning the phone, we took away the very device that's causing learning losses, that's causing anger and frustration and mental health issues. We take this device away, maybe we can change habits, and maybe we can close the gap, bridge that gap for all learning losses. Okay, everyone is responsible for a lead, body one, body two, and a conclusion. I've given you everything possible on the outline. I've given you everything you need to be successful. And even if you don't have a phone, and many of my students don't, you see it in the classroom. You have to see it. If you don't see it in the classroom, you may see it with older brother or mom and dad. And I'm not married to my phone, but I have a husband who is. If that phone has any kind of alert, he's looking at it. So we know that people and even teachers have an issue with their phones. All right, thank you for attending the Zoom recording class of the class. Please submit your essay within 3 or 4 days of this lesson, or you will forget what I asked for. And have a great day.